On the agenda is first reading of the Administrative Procedure and Regulation Committee on Commission Policy 50, Commission Policy 51, Commission Policy 22 by Committee Chairman Commissioner Kobrin.
Thank you, Chairman Leonard. I'm talking with my committee members and constituency. We would like to propose some ideas on some changes which are coming forth on these policies. So I would like to go over them at this point in time. So, I'm sorry, on Commission Policy number 50, under the area of production, under Nevada duck stamp, on number 1, proposal's been put forth to have a judging team of 5 individuals. That was prior to 7, consisting of 3 members of the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners and 2 individuals appointed by the sponsoring organization. Also, too, on number 4, which is down there, no judge will have any interest or contact with any of the entrants at any time prior to the judging. And those were the proposed changes that are being put forth on policy number 50.
Any commissioners got the change, right? Any questions by any of the commissioners? Commissioner Wallace. I'm just.
It's been 2 years.
I just am kind of curious why the change. I mean, I was a member of the duck stamp judging committee, and it seemed to work really well, and I don't see the need for changing it. Why are we changing? The only thing I can see is we had 3 commissioners placed on the committee, and there's only 2 in this policy. I can see that change, but I don't see anything wrong with having 7 volunteers or any of that. I don't see the point. Just would like a clarification of where it came from.
Well, we were trying to, kind of cut down on the number of individuals. Thought it would be a little more efficient to go that route. And it's just a proposal that's been put forth. Okay.
It's hard to get commissioners interested, but it's kind of a neat program, and I think the commissioners that are the judges should take a real active interest in it, because it's really a kind of a fun thing, and it's to do. So I put 3 commissioners on it, and it seemed like that'd be a nice project. I mean, it's important. Let me turn it over to the public. Any public comment on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Ken Wellington, Elko County. Just so you know, Mr. Dixon from Clark County CAB asked me to read his recommendation, and they support the changes that the committee had done. However, Elko County, we had a slight problem because we just didn't want to take away public input or comment. So we thought if there was somebody in the audience mentioned that they had trouble getting volunteers outside of commission people to participate in this. So we thought we'd like to see is something where they would at least give an opportunity to have up to 5 members from the public or these organizations that are involved, and with a minimum of 2. And we kind of would like to see something in that range. And what that would do is that would still allow, if we can get the people to participate in this from outside, from these organizations, to at least have that extra public input inside. Thank you.
We got to keep an odd number.
Yeah.
5 and 5 would be 10.
Well, you have 3, and then what we'd like to see is up to 5, so that would give you 7.
Anybody else? Oh,
I have a question.
Sure.
Did you say that your cab did not get notice of these changes?
We got these in an email that came right before the cab meeting. We put them on because on the agenda, it was on the commission's agenda. So we put it on, but we didn't get the support material to look that over until right before our meeting. So it's just and so we had to go off of what we had there to look at. And again, we just felt that it was taking public comment away, so.
What are the rules? What is the position or with respect to making policy changes and not getting cab or public comment or even an opportunity for cab or public comment, just in general?
We're letting the public comment, David. That was one of the problems we have with having, when I talked to the director, to have, and in the past, they've had committee meetings the night before and the day before the commission meetings. And when they have meetings that late, committee meetings, it's impossible to get them to the cabs. But, I've got a problem with having that, but when we do telephonic ones, and you've had meetings yourself the day before, and financial committee meetings, and how do you get that information to the cabs? It's really impossible, and that's why we want a public comment period where they can comment on it here. And technically, you should have them out before not technically, but realistically, you should have them out before the cab meets. But I had the changes on the internet. I don't know when I had it, but I went to the internet, got the changes, and that's why I made that comment to get it posted as quick as you can, but on the internet for the committee chairman to approve it. But like on your finance committee meetings, the cabs didn't get time to review what you did, and it's a problem getting the information out to the cabs when you have meetings just before the commission.
Mr. Chairman, Ken Mayer, Director Vendel, for the record, you point out an excellent issue and a problem for us. We have 30 days to get the minutes, and we've been criticized over and over and over again that we don't get things out quick enough. And of course, the day before or that day of the commission meeting, it's virtually impossible. And we have 30 days to do that, especially when we have all these committees doing this work. And in reality, what should happen is that if this particular committee meeting, for instance, happened, we shouldn't have it on the agenda for this meeting. It should be for the February meeting, because that gives us our 30 days to get the minutes so that the chairman can review them, approve them, get them out in the mailing and whatnot. So we're really trying to, I think, rush it. And the reason that the staff did the notes was that we realized, because of the criticism, that we didn't have information to people, is we added the notes, which had not been approved by the chairman, but we were between and betwixt. We didn't know quite what to do, be silent on it or try to do something quickly that wasn't necessarily official. So maybe it's something that you, Mr. Chairman, can give some thought to, as far as the timing, the scheduling of committee meetings and when they should be heard at the full commission, so that we have an opportunity for the cabs to comment.
Right.
My recommendation would be, I don't know if you need to stand there, Mr. Wellington.
Okay, thank you.
My recommendation would be, if you're on a committee and you have a general idea of what you want to do, is to draft up that language and get it out to the public as soon as you can, so the public has a chance to look at that, look at your draft. Yes, it'll change in the committee meeting, but at least the public has an idea of where you're going. Because the main idea is to make sure we have the public's business done in the public. So if you have an idea, just scratch out some notes, get those out as soon as you can in advance, and that way nobody can complain that they didn't get notice what you're doing.
As long as you don't talk to the other committee members.
Well, under the open meeting law, you can communicate your ideas to the other committee members as long as they don't communicate back, because then you start your deliberations. So you can put that information out, and especially if you're putting it out to the whole public.
Commissioner Rain?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the past, I tried to do this at a committee meeting a few meetings ago, and I got an email specifically, it was from the policy committee, and it was a note from Dag New saying, you cannot. And I sent an email to Kim Jolly saying, can you send this stuff out to the rest of the committee for her to do it? So it didn't come through me. To send this out as my proposed changes, and said, no. And she said, no, you can't do that. We won't do it until that meeting starts. And then they sent the email out to everybody right when that meeting started. So it was exactly contrary to your advice.
I think I remember what Commissioner Rain saying, and I believe New clarified that it was because we'd noticed it already with the support documents, but I have a question for Brian. If we notice the meeting with proposed changes from our chairman or whomever of the committee, and then they change, that's okay?
Yes.
Okay.
That's okay. It's just, I mean, you obviously can't know in advance what the final product's gonna look like. But the more we do the public's business in the public, the better off we're gonna be. That's all I'm saying.
I tried.
And we did have some county boards respond to
We'll figure out what went wrong. I'm not familiar with it.
it. Commissioner Good.
Thank you, Chairman Lynn. I guess my position is that if you are going to make changes to policy or regulation or anything, there's a requirement for notice, but for notice to be meaningful, it's not notice to say that you're going to make changes to a policy without indicating what changes are going to be made, in my opinion. And I think when we get to policy 22, this is where it's going to become very, very clear, because there are some very substantive changes in policy 22 that nobody had any idea were going to occur until the meeting occurred. And so, for notice to be meaningful, either drafts of the changes or something that describes in at least general terms to put people on notice of the subject matter of the changes, I think is really what needs to happen to make it a meaningful notice and give opportunity for people to comment. And then the issue of having a meeting on November 24th, just in advance of our commission meeting, I don't know if that gives enough time for everybody to, provide the input that's necessary.
Mr. Chairman, can I quickly respond? Sure. My recollection of that incident was there was notice, there was support material sent out, and within, after the notice went out, there had been desires to make changes to the materials that had already been dispersed to the public. And the way that it was presented to me, it appeared like it was some attempt, or could be perceived as an attempt to deprive the public of sufficient notice. And that was why I recommended that all these changes could be presented at the meeting, because the public already had a different version of what was to be discussed. But I agree with Brian Stockton. Any materials that you would like to discuss should be provided to the public to the extent practical.
I listened in from this meeting, and we had 3 microphones. Wasn't it Elko, Reno, and Las Vegas? So we did have a lot of public. The public did have a chance to attend the meeting, and we had it in 3 parts of the states. And some of the county boards, I was looking at their minutes, and we've got responses that a lot of the county boards seem like they put it on their agenda. They had a time to put it on their agenda, because I did see it on their minutes that they did discuss this, so with some recommendations. So we did get some response from some of the county boards, and when you have a public meeting, that's what you have. We had 3 microphones set up and all over the state for them to attend, and so I think the committee did its best to get everyone involved, and they had opportunities to attend any of those meetings. Commissioner Capurro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know my concern, I'm sure it is of others in this litigious period of time, that violations of open meeting law are thrown back and forth all the time. I'm not talking about specifically here, but it makes it difficult for people to say, I'm going to input this thing, because I'm not sure that it's not a violation of the open meeting law. If I put specific provisions down and then say that we discuss it, and the provisions that I've set down are the ones that are adopted by the committee, I think there's a problem there. But if you put something general down that says we need to talk about over-harvesting, such as the issues brought up by Lander County, that we need to look for some solution to that. That, to me, is enough notice to the public about what we're going to talk about. For me to suggest specific language is to ignore the fact that we're going to have a meeting on it, at which time the general public's going to be involved, and we may or may not incorporate their language. So that's why I don't provide specific language, because I'm concerned that somebody will, some bright soul will say that's a violation of open meeting law.
Brian?
Just to clarify, and the open meeting law is very important to the Attorney General's office, which is why I'm always kind of on top of it. And the specific language there is that a meeting is a gathering of a public body at which a quorum is present to deliberate towards a decision. And so that includes serial meetings. So if I was a member of the commission and I said, dear fellow commissioners, this is what I think about this particular issue, and I put it in an email and I hit send, I haven't violated the open meeting law because nobody's deliberating yet. I'm just putting my ideas out, and especially if you put those out to the public as well, that's fine. Where you violate the open meeting law is if three people hit reply to all and say, here's what I think. Then you're violating the open meeting law. But just sending out your ideas is not a violation of the open meeting law.
But does that also, what if you send out a message such as you said, and I, as another commissioner, not quite sure what you're talking about, and I ask for some clarification? Is that or is not that, that's a reply, and is that or is not that not discussion?
Okay, so that's a dangerous area where you're on thin ice, where you ask that question, but if it's just you and one other member, a quorum of this board takes 5. The problem is if 4 other commissioners do the same thing, then we're in trouble. So usually, if you have those kinds of questions, if you save them for the open meeting, you're fine.
On a committee, you might only have 3, but, my personal feeling is, human nature, if somebody throws something out, human nature, if people react, they're going to talk about it. And if you're really risking it, and I just don't think that's a smart idea, because if you throw something out on one of your committees and you say, here's what I want to do, human nature, somebody's going to call you up and talk to you about it, and then you're on thin ice. And I just think if you're going to do these things, just say, I'm going to review legislative committee, you're going to review something, and then throw it out to the committee and the public and review it at a public deal. But you might have some ideas, every committee member might have ideas, but human nature, you're going to talk to somebody about it. The committee chairman, somebody's going to respond to you, and then like Brian says, we're on thin ice, and I just don't want any open meeting complaints.
Thank you, Chairman Lent. Just to kind of clarify what Commissioner Capurro said, and in my comments, I think in this particular instance, there was specific language that was put forth, on a couple of issues, and maybe I'm jumping the gun. I'm moving actually forward on 22. This comment really relates to 22, but it's a procedural issue in general that applies to all 3 of these policies. Is that if the committee had specific language in mind at the time they issued their agenda notice, my position would be that needs to be in, the notice, to be distinguished from the situation where you put out a general agenda item that says we are going to be considering changing policy with regard to the dealing with predators on trap and transplant programs. And then the language is developed in the actual discussion of the meeting. That I'm okay with, but it just seems to me that to have a specific provision already in hand, and then you have a meeting, and that's the first time the public gets to see it. That's the issue that I have, and I don't know if the DAG has any comments on that.
That's why I recommended that if you know the ideas that you want to put out, just put them out with the support.
Commissioner Rain?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I kind of need to defend a couple of these meetings in a way, because these meetings that took place, I considered them to be workshops. And I had a lot of specific recommendations I brought to it, and most of them were never brought out. I do try to make a lot of copious notes on specific recommendations going into any meeting. You go in, you listen to public comment, you scratch out part of your motion you were going to make, okay, you fix it, you change it, some of them you scratch the whole thing out. I mean, if we all brought forth all of our ideas in print to begin with, it would be a volume, and I mean, it's a workshop, it's a refining process. So when we show up, it's a work in process, and you can see that by listening to these meetings. You know, somebody throws out one idea, the next guy throws out another idea, we rediscuss it, reword it, went back and forth. That happened on many of these different proposals. And that's the workshop, and then it comes here, and as we'll see, like jumping ahead to another item, one of the items, I'm going to have to ask for it to be withdrawn due to issues that came up later on from further public comment that happened later on. So, you know, by no means was it a final product before it happened. I mean, it was a definite work in process, and it still is, and it still is today, and it still will be until tomorrow.
Well, let's, I'll take another comment, but let's bring it back to committee chairman. We've got other things that he reports for him to report on there. Commissioner Wallace, you have a...
Yeah, just something quick. Well, maybe what we need to do then is when these committee meetings happen, maybe it doesn't go on the next commission meeting as an action item. It goes on as an informational item, and then the next commission meeting for an action item. Maybe that will satisfy some of this opportunity to comment on it, because then it will come back and we can have the comment that we're probably going to have today, which then there can be another committee meeting before it comes back as an action item. Because I saw that when I was on the same policy committee, you can't make everybody happy. It's almost like you got to take 6 months to get something done, which
And
if
then
that's
we
what it
have,
takes, that's
we
what
got
it
a
takes.
couple of credit projects we got approved too, and so we got a time restraint. Go ahead, Commissioner Kobrin, with your committee recommendation.
Thank you, Chairman. Looking at Commission Policy 51, some ideas for some proposed changes here. As we look under policy, number one proposed change would be from 2 to 3 Board of Wildlife Commissioners to be named by the chairman and will be represented on the Kirch Award Committee. Under number 3, on the judging panel, well, first of all, let me go back to number 2. As you'll see down there, there was deleted, the judging panel must review nominations and return rating sheets to the department staff by December 15th of the current year, and then the staff comment will report to the Kirch Award Committee. That's all, that would be deleted. Going into number 3, it would read as such: judging panel. The recipient will be selected by a judging panel made up of 3 wildlife commissioners, 1 department staff member, and Marlene Kirch, daughter of former Commissioner Wayne E. Kirch. The rest on number 3 would be deleted until you get to the award will be presented to the selected candidate at the next Wildlife Commission meeting held closest to the recipient's home, and then the change, or at another commission meeting agreed to by the recipient. So those were some of the proposed ideas which came out.
You had another deletion on 7, did you?
Oh, yes, excuse me, you're right. And on that, yes, that's correct, thank you, Mr. Chairman. All costs for printing and any other administrative costs of the Kirch Award are to be paid out of the Wildlife Commission budget. That will go away.
Let's see if there's any comments on 51 here from the commission before I turn it over to the public. Anybody from the public want to comment on this change in 51, policy 51?
Good afternoon now. Ken Wellington for the record, Elko County. Again, our concerns were that we were adding wildlife commissioners, deleting the judges being from the advisory boards to manage wildlife, outdoor groups, and so on, were being deleted out of there, leaving basically a run for the commission to be able to control the vote for this award. And so what we did is we voted not to support this. with concerns to taking away public comment from the boards and from the public. And for Clark County, they did support this, however, they had a split vote of 3-2. Thank you.
Anybody else?
For the record, my name is Dennis Wilson. My affiliation is Nevada Bighorns Unlimited, but I'm speaking for myself. The question I must ask right off the bat, very similar to what Commissioner Wallace asked, is why the change? That's one thing with all three of these that I certainly would like to know the answer to. I was the author of last year's Kirch Award winner survey and evaluation. I put that together. I nominated a person whom I felt was outstanding in his dedication to Nevada wildlife and his selfless efforts to benefit Nevada's wildlife. I put a lot of time into that, and I was truly proud to provide that to the Kirch Award Committee. So then once again, my first question is, why are we changing things so much? Does Mrs. Kirch know of the proposed changes? It is her legacy and her father that this was named over. Is she aware of the proposed changes in this award? The other thing I'm concerned about is the beauty of the Kirch Award was to include a broad spectrum of participation from the wildlife, the county boards, members of the commission, and others. What it appears as if on this is that it is now down to 5 members, 3 commission members, Mrs. Kirch, and then 1 Department of Wildlife member. It appears as if the, quote, deck has been stacked with commission members. And I'm concerned about that, because we no longer have, once again, what I consider to be the beauty and the intent of the Kirch Award appears to be eliminated when that happens. Those are my comments.
Now, you're aware, you can still put a proposal together for anyone you want. This is not stopping any organization like yourself from putting a proposal. You can do exactly what you did last year. You understand that, right?
Yes, Chairman Lent, I understand
Just
that.
eliminate that.
My concern is why all the changes, because I thought we did a grand job. I was very pleased. But now it looks like maybe there were some concerns here. That's what I'm trying to bring out. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Kobrin?
Yes. I'd just like to ask you, are you afraid that there would not be objectivity from the 3 proposed?
Not necessarily am I afraid of that, but I like a broad spectrum of participation in an award of this nature. And we've narrowed that down to just 3 areas of participation instead of multiple areas of participation. That is my concern.
Who were the judges last year? Do you know?
I do not know.
Did they belong to the same organization, or do you know who they were?
Chairman, I do not know who the judges were.
Commissioner Rain? You have a question?
Just briefly, we did get a letter from Marlene Kirch, and I did not see my copy of it, but it basically states, do you happen to have a copy? It's basically stated she supported changes as long as the ward continued, and would like to work with the committee any way she could, or the commission any way she could. It was a nice brief paragraph.
Thank you. But once again, from a public point of view, I didn't know that she was commented, and I appreciate
That was read
that.
at the meeting.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
We did receive a letter from Marlene Kirch prior to the meeting. I have not received anything from her since these changes were made, so.
Thank you. Any other public?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I've got 2 hats to wear. But before I make an introduction, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go back to Commission Policy 50. The Commission sort of went off on a different tangent with the open meeting law and never came back to public comment. So with your permission, I would like to address 50. I've got two hats to wear today. For the record, Thomas Wilson, Washoe County Advisory Board. The Washoe County Advisory Board voted to take no action and to recommend staying this particular issue because of some of the issues that were talked about by the Commission, that there wasn't enough information as to what the problem was and what the proposed solutions were. So that is the recommendation of our board. Now, let me put on my second hat. Thomas Wilson, President, Nevada Waterfowl Association. As many of you know, the Nevada Waterfowl Association is the sponsoring agency for the Nevada Duck Stamp Program and has been for years. This change was the first time I had heard about it. I got on the phone, started talking to people to try to find out, okay, what are the changes? What's the problem? How can we make it better? It's no secret that the Waterfowl Association is a huge proponent of the Duck Stamp Program, and we've worked tirelessly and worked very hard to make the contest fair, to make it open, and to have a good program. I talked to Hugh Judd, who has been our point person on the Duck Stamp contest for years. The man is, quite frankly, an expert when it comes to this. He hadn't heard anything about it. I placed a call to Dr. Lynn, our chairman, and I apologize that we weren't able to hook up. I also talked to the committee chairman, Mr. Kobrin, and we had a good telephone conference. We talked about the proposals, we talked about different ideas, and one of the things that, and I apologize if I missummarize our conversation, it's certainly not my intent, but one of the ideas that I proposed was, look, if there's a problem with the duck stamp contest, Nevada Waterfowl Association is deeply concerned and wants to help address the problem so that everybody can move forward. So with that premise, I suggested, why don't we do this? Why don't we table Policy 50? Let's get a list of concerns or complaints or whatever the issue happens to be. Let me take it back to the Nevada Waterfowl Association. Let me talk to the people who have been on point on this entire contest for years. And let the Nevada Waterfowl Association, as sponsoring agency, provide its experience and its expertise and give the Commission some ideas on how to improve the program so that we don't have to redo this over and over again. But this is based on our expertise, based on our experience. Here's how we can do it better. And Commissioner Kobrin thought that was a great idea. So I suppose my question for you today is that, and I hope there's going to be a motion, that we move to table this issue. I will take the concerns of the Commission back to the Nevada Waterfowl Association, and we will bring to the Commission different ideas on how to improve it, and then of course the Commission can do whatever the Commission would like in how to improve the process. But we certainly would like to have an opportunity to address the issues to make the program better.
You got to understand that there might be other people that want to bid on this, like the Wildlife Federation, so we can't gear it straight for what your organization wants. We have to look at any other public organization that might want to put an application on there, what's good for them. So we got to look at the whole program, not just
absolutely. And for the record, let me make this very clear. I'm not saying that the Nevada Waterfowl Association should always be and has been and forevermore shall be the only sponsoring agency. Not at all. I know that there are other agencies out there, and that's totally fine. I want to give you our information based on our experience as having been the sponsoring agency for many, many years.
No, you've done a great job, your organization, and when I was part of Nevada Organization for Wildlife, we originated it, and then you guys took it over after that, so you've been a great asset to the contest for sure.
Thank you.
Any other
any questions?
Commissioner Capurro?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, when Mr. Kobrin held the public workshop, were you in attendance at that, or did you provide input such as you're talking about today?
No, and the reason for that, and this is not meant accusatorily towards anybody, but my association wasn't even notified that this was an issue. We've never received any complaints or concerns about the duck stamp program. We didn't even know that it was on the agenda for the policy committee.
I guess my point is that there was a specifically noticed committee meeting to address the very issues we're talking about. And it's pretty plain what it is as far as when you say general policy number 50 and 51 all have to do with the Kirch award.
Well, 50 has to do with the duck stamp.
I understand that, but the fact of the matter is that you had noticed that there was going to be something done with policy 50, which is your pride and joy, has been in the past. Don't you think you should have been at that hearing to provide the information you are now?
Well, what you're saying is that I should spend time standing in front of the courthouse in order to receive the public notice as it's tattooed to the wall. And I understand that there's public notice, and again, I'm not being accusatory. I'm not saying that the law wasn't followed. That's not my purpose here. My purpose here is to say that we were not there. Maybe we should have been. We did not get notice, but maybe we should have been standing at the courthouse or standing at the county administrative building and watch the notice go up. But what I am saying is we have some information that I think would be beneficial to the committee, or to the commission. We've done this for a long time, and we'd like to help, and we'd like to offer some ideas that maybe the commission and maybe the committee itself hadn't thought about. Because we have been doing this. We're sort of in a unique position to offer our assistance. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. That's not my purview. But we would like, if there are problems with the duck stamp contest, we want to help. The duck stamp contest is a very important contest. It's dwindling nationwide, and it also makes the artist quite a bit of money. I mean, it's pretty serious bragging rights when you can say that, yes, I'm the winning artist for the Nevada duck stamp competition, or the California duck stamp competition, or any other state that still has it. So it is a very important program, and all I'm saying on behalf of the waterfowl is we'd like to help. If there are solutions that need to be created, we'd like to help create those solutions.
I like to say that, that's what we have, public comment. If we can always change policy, so we hear it, we change it here, we can change it to the next month or two. So we have a system where you can come to the commission and say, we'd like to put on the agenda, and if you've got some good changes, you request us put on the agenda, and then we could discuss it anytime you want if you've got some good ideas on any of our policies.
Well, and I'm happy to do so, and as you know, Dr. Lynn, I have done exactly that in the past. I think one of the biggest questions, and not putting myself in the position of everybody here, but I think in regards to the duck stamp contest, and then maybe in regards to some of the other policy questions, for those of us who were judges, was there a problem with this year's contest? Were there too many judges? Did it take too long? I mean, and to this date, and you and I talked about this, and we still weren't able to hammer out actually what the actual problem was. And I think once we focus on what the problem is, then we can come up with a solution. But that's just something that I think we can do, and I think we can do it in a very open and very positive way.
Commissioner Gett?
Thank you. Okay, I've got the committee's agenda right here, and basically what it says for 5, 6, and 7, it says review Commission Policy 50 Duck Stamp Procedure 2009. 6 reads review Commission Policy 51 Wayne Kirch Nevada Wildlife Conservation Award Policy. 7 review Commission Policy 22 Introduction, Transplanting, and Exportation of Wildlife Policy 2009. And what it doesn't say is it doesn't say that there was going to be any changes that were going to occur. It doesn't say that action was going to be taken at the next commission meeting. It really doesn't say anything. It says review.
That asterisk down there on that, and then it says asterisk by the action indicates it's an action item, Commissioner Gett, on the agenda. Right there. Do you have any other questions of Tom? Hate to have you standing up there all the time. Commissioner, let's go to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. While you're standing there, regardless of whether this is approved or disapproved or whatever, always, if you have some suggestions to a policy, I would just ask you bring them forward. If you think something needs change, you'd like to bring, at any point in time, I would be happy to, I think the committees would, if you think there should be some issues or there's always chance for redress, and whether it's passed or not passed, whatever, I mean, give the committee chairman, I'm sure he'd be happy to put something on an agenda when it comes up. And that would go to everybody.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate the process. I think some of the, at least in regards to the duck stamp issue, I can't speak to all the issues, but at least in regards to the duck stamp issue, part of the problem I think that my organization has, or should I be more specific, part of the problem that I have is that I'm not sure what the problem was with the original, the way we did it this year. And we got changes, that's fine, but do the changes fix the problem? I can't answer that question because I don't know what the problem was. Was the problem, I mean, the changes obviously are knocking down the number of judges. That's number one. And number two, increasing the number of wildlife commissioners who are judges. Okay. But what was the problem that knocking down the number of judges from 7 to 5 is going to fix? Does that fix the problem? I don't know that it does because I don't know what the problem was in the first place. That's part of the issue, and I think it's something that my organization, as past sponsor, can help address if that is part of the problem.
I think that there doesn't have to be a problem to make a change. I think this commission is like, I didn't see any problem with Bush's administration when Obama got in, but yet he wanted to make a change. I think this commission's taken the different issues from deer to predators, as the director knows, and they say, what's the problem with the way the predator committee's working now or something? Well, there might not be a problem, but this commission is taking a different look at things, and so there might not have to be a problem to make a change. And I don't know, what this commission thinks on it, but I don't think there has to be a problem to make a change.
Speaking personally, I would respectfully disagree. If it's working fine, I'm not sure change is necessarily a good thing.
It might work better, I'll see what the change.
It might work better, it might work worse.
Right. That's why we redress it. Commissioner Capurro.
Yes, sir. To me, that notice outlined the areas. To me, that would have been a red flag if I got a notice that said we're going to deal with policy 50. Which, going back to my remarks a little bit earlier, to find out, to go to that committee meeting or to participate in it somehow or other, to input it at that point. That's why we have committees, in my view, that they make some recommendations to the commission. That doesn't mean you can't come in during the commission meetings and make the same points, but I think it's disrespectful to the committee chairman to not provide the input to his committee when he's had a meeting that's been noticed. Goes back to the open meeting stuff that we discussed earlier. I think that notice is general, it provides enough outline to say that I should be there at that meeting to provide input.
I think I understand
If I could, I'm sorry.
Beg your pardon.
Go ahead, Brian.
It's my open meeting law hat, but I appreciate Commissioner Capurro's comments, but I hope they're not being taken to the, as meaning that you're discouraged from submitting public comment at this body, as obviously you're here and submitting public comment, but I just wanted to make sure that wasn't the intent, and I don't think it was, but I just wanted to make it clear on the record that you're more than welcome to make your public
I
comment.
explained that in my discourse with him, that you're welcome to come in here to make the comments, but that I think it's disrespectful not to go to the committee meeting that is going to discuss this issue and bring it forth. That was my point.
I think I understand the confusion with our communication. We're sort of doing this, and let me see if I can summarize it. Again, I am not saying, and even though I am a lawyer, I'm not saying that there wasn't legal notice. I'm not saying that I didn't have a legal right to stand up and an opportunity to be heard. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is this. My organization has been doing this for a long time. We have some experience, we have some expertise that I think would benefit you in making your deliberations. So, based on our conversation with the committee chairman, we discussed tabling this issue so that my committee or that my organization can come to you and say, here's some of our ideas that you may not have thought about, and you can act on them, you cannot act on them, but it would serve the best interest of the commission to hear these ideas. If the commission doesn't want to hear ideas, that's totally up to the commission. But all I'm saying is that I've got some people who can help out, and if you want to hear from us, we'd be delighted to help. That's all I'm saying.
Tomorrow, we can hear them tomorrow, it's coming up again tomorrow.
Well, our board, and I discussed this with the committee chairman, it's on our agenda. Our board of directors meets on Thursday of this week, of a week from yesterday. That is our next board meeting, and it's on our agenda, and we want to provide the commission with specific recommendations to help solve whatever problems there may be. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Kobrin.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Lynn. Tom, we had a late notice conversation that we did. It was just a few days ago.
Right.
Okay. And I had wished, quite frankly, that probably could have discussed this issue a little earlier. I think it would have been a little more fruitful to both the commission and also to myself. So I do appreciate your concern. Okay, it's very valid, but it did come at a later time. And
I agree.
It was after the fact. So
I agree. I appreciate the time that you gave me. I really do. We had a very good conversation. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other from the public want to comment on this?
I think I have a part of them, Chairman Litt.
Yeah, there's a card, doesn't specify which exact issue, but it is here. It says Judy. That must be-
Agenda items, it says.
It says agenda items, doesn't specify.
I think it says agenda item 8. I wrote.
Item 8, but yeah, there's 3 portions under it, so.
And I want to talk about all 3, possibly?
We're not going to talk about 22 till we
Well,
get
then
there.
I'll just keep it to 50 and 51 that we're doing?
Yes.
Okay. Can I come in? Chairman Lent and fellow commissioners of the board, my name is Judy Karen for the record. And I wanted to speak on agenda item number 8 for the policies. And on November 24th, I live in Reno. I had the opportunity to come to the department, and I think it was a teleconference for that very first meeting of the administrative policy procedures. I had been looking at the posting on the website for 2 to 3 days previous to the meeting being held. I downloaded the support material, and having served on a county advisory board in the past, and I'm not on our county board, I made the decision not to come to the meeting because of the support material not having any language for review or changes. The support material, I think, is still on the website, but I did come to the predator or the wildlife management meeting afterwards at 11 o'clock because their support material had language for what they were going to review. That is one concern of mine. So I think the support material should have either an objective, a purpose, and a goal of what language, if you don't want to put the language in there, but that would make me want to come on the review portion and give my concerns. What are your ideas? Because I hadn't heard about it before. Another reason, especially on policy number 50, which is the duck stamp procedure. I think on commission policies, correct me if I'm wrong, those come before the board or the commission for a review every 10 years after the last time it's been reviewed. This policy, from what I downloaded from the website, was last reviewed on March 27th, 2009. Is that correct? Does anyone know?
You can answer.
That was 9 months ago?
No, I think, Judy, there's a state law that says policies have to be reviewed by the state law every, I think, 10 years.
Minimum.
Minimum.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know if we have a section in the policies specifically that requires a review every 10 years. There's a section of NRS that requires a review of the regulations every 10
Okay.
years. And as we've talked about before, policies are just what govern this board and this board's functions. They're not really force of law. So the state law requires regulations to be reviewed every 10 years. And I don't know of a specific provision that requires policies to be reviewed every 10 years.
I thought it was in our commission policy 1 that the commission would review their own policies in a 10-year turnover.
It could be. It's been a while since I looked at it.
But back to the point, and I appreciate that, Mr. Stockton. I looked at this and I thought, what could transpire from March 27th, 2009 to November 24th, 2009 in a 9-month period for this much language that came through on the duck stamp? 2 or 3 things.
Chairman.
We're letting
She
her
can
talk.
finish. Go ahead, I just want to have an
Yeah.
opportunity after she's done.
two or three things came to my mind because I couldn't find anything to say, as Tom stated, what the problem was, why we were bringing this up, why we were having a subcommittee meeting. Except for, we've had a change in the appointments after the July meeting, after that I think possibly the duck stamp committee has changed. Also, the same holds true for the Kirch Award. We have, different commissioners serving on that are appointed by our chairman. And maybe their thoughts have changed from when the last time it was discussed. But one of the big concerns on this is when we do have new commissioners, the public's not being involved or having the opportunity, just like Chairman Capurro said. Chair Capurro, I feel, asked some very important questions today when the county advisory boards were up here testifying. He asked how many people attended their meeting. He asked how many people of staff were there. He asked how many people, the general public, and their own. One thing I think is very important, he didn't ask, which I would love to know, is how many commissioners were at these county advisory board meetings to hear the public's concerns that they're addressing at the input process at the county advisory board level first. And I would ask at this meeting of Mr. Kobrin and his committee, since this was a teleconference and I attended the one later, we had terrible service from one of the terminals, and I think it was the Las Vegas, that you couldn't understand what was being said. So I was waiting for the draft minutes to come out to understand, some of the points. You couldn't keep interrupting. But how many commissioners were there? How many fellow commissioners from the public sat in there? How many county advisory boards give input? How many of the general public? Could it have been because we didn't have support material asking for what your changes were?
You're addressing
Okay.
policy 50, and this is a time that if you want to put input to this is what we welcome it, and this is what we want.
I appreciate
50
that,
and
Chairman Lentz.
51.
I think you made a great suggestion. This is a workshop. This could be a workshop for each policy for review, 50, 51. Let's have the workshop when everybody's here, county advisory board, organizations, come back with a policy